Welcome back. Welcome back to the Kovacs Report, Spider fans. We are doing great for Spider books this week with four books out. We are eating well. However, the proof of the pudding is in the reading in this case. Now, listen, we're going to take a look at Spider-Man 94 issue 3, the sort of continuation of the legendary animated TV series, which we all loved. But listen, guys, I hope you're sitting down. If you're not, take a seat because I am going to shock you. Now, if you've been following this channel for any amount of time, I think you've already guessed what I'm going to say about this book. But actually, drum roll time. I actually really enjoyed it. I know. I'll say it again. I actually really enjoyed this book. It's got some great character moments that really, really get Mary Jane, Aunt May. We've got the peril. We've got a very interesting origin story for Morlun. We've got Kaine's dark and twisted and tragic story unfolding. And in the shadows, we got a classic villain. We have Kraven the Hunter. So I'm going to go through it page by page. So there will be spoilers. Read it first if you don't like sport. Like the video if you can. And if you've managed to sort of awake from being stunned or knocked out by the fact I liked a Spider book, right, hit the subscribe button. Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Great cover. I really enjoy the cover. Of course, we've got the inevitable and now pretty much standard 400 different variant covers. Now, DeMatteis and Jim Towe. Now, the art's okay, but I will point out, like many others, it doesn't get faces very well. And you'll see as we go through, the faces are all wonky. I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's me. Now, we start at the Sims Foundation, Ezekiel's company. It has grown into this giant global conglomerate doing what it does, doing good for the world. In fact, and in those shadows, like I mentioned earlier, we see Kraven waiting to make his move. Now, this chapter is called Totems, which is quite important. So let's get into that origin story because it's quite cool. I quite like it. It says, history tells us that before Homo sapiens staggered to their feet and conquered this world, the Earth was primitive, bestial. No intelligent species existed on the planet. Your history is wrong. Long before recorded time, great races descended from the heavens, rose up from the seas, flew through the air, filling this world with wonders and terrors beyond imagining. Great civilizations, lost to the memory of humankind, rose and fell over the course of hundreds of thousands of years. And among them was Loka, that majestic kingdom where Morlun originates from. Now, he was Prince Morlun, the child of a foolish king who died too young, raised by a mother far stronger and wiser than a mouldering husband. She expected him to take the throne, restore Loka to its past glories, and be the monarch it deserved. But you know what? He rejected that. He thought that was a boring century life for Raw. He wanted to explore. He wanted adventure. And that's what he did. And he traveled for years. He saw everything the world had to offer. Magic, miracles, violence, transcendence, sacredness, and unspeakable sin. Now, he did return. He did return because the kingdom of his birth was invaded by an army of mysterious hybrid creatures. Okay? So he returned to lead the military force against these totems, as he came to call them. Okay, very interesting. They're called totems. They were hidden in shadow for centuries, part human, part beast. The totems carried the legacy of each species, a living bridge between both worlds. And during that fateful battle, Morlun discovered that he had a strange connection to these totems, okay? These totems. He could use their life force. It could feed his own. It could transform him, grant him great abilities and powers. And most importantly, extend his lifespan by years, decades, millennia. So this is how he stays alive. He feeds on these totems. We get more interesting story about what he did next, okay? Well, where he ended up. There's a peculiar image here where he's sort of mounting this mountain beast. It looks a bit, triple X to me. I'm not sure what's going on there. Anyway, I digress. So through the years, the decades, and the millennia, he reinvented himself, giving himself a new name, learning more things. Okay, now, and the be-all, end of it is basically this. He's formed a company. He wanted to do good for the world, and that's exactly what he did. So 200 years ago, he founded the Sims and company, right? The Sims Foundation, where he swore it would inspire humanity, okay? Leading humans to a higher destiny. And he took on the moniker of Gabriel Sims. Now, of course, as he gets older, he reinvented himself as the grandsons or great-grandsons of Gabriel, finally ending up where we are now as Ezekiel. Okay, and this company that he's built is far greater than his old kingdom could have ever have been. Now we get a quick flash We get a quick flash of old Kaine here. Now, his story is quite dark in this, and if you've been reading the book, we won't go over it all over again. Anyway, what we find out is that Morlun has been feeding. And the more he feeds, the less he's getting in return. And he is dying. He's burning through these life energies of his victims at an accelerated rate. And soon, very soon, those energies just won't sustain him enough. But he has this greater good. Okay, so it's important that he stays alive for the betterment of humankind and the world. And he says to Spider-Man, listen, you are a new totem, a totem of a new age. You could possibly sustain me for 100 years, unlike these other that just give me a few years, maybe 10. But I want you to surrender yourself. Now I explain to you the good that I've brought to this world, the fact that I'm taking humanity to the next step. Your sacrifice is important, and I'd rather you do it willingly. But Spidey, of course, is not going to sacrifice himself. No. Anyway, let's move on. Spidey is not going to surrender. So Morlun uses his weird sort of webbed, I don't know what it is, but it comes out of his mouth and it starts cocooning Spidey up, right? Now cocooning him until basically he cannot move. And there's some kind of paralytic sort of additive or whatever you call it, quality to this kind of webbing, this cocoon. And it basically dulls his senses, dulls his powers, makes him a bit weaker and weaker and weaker. And remember, he's just had a huge battle in issue 2, which he's trying to recover from. Now, excuse me. Morlun decides he's got things to do, and he leaves the cocoon there in his little lab, in his office, and Kaine arrives. Now, remember, Kaine's a clone, okay? And basically, those clones deteriorate, and he just makes another Kaine. So it's really weird, because it's messing with the sort of idea of who Kaine is. But this specific one, right, cannot focus. His thoughts, they're collapsing on themselves. He feels vulnerable. What would my father do, I wonder, if I killed his precious spider totem? Why are you so important? Why do you have such value that he needs you more than he needs his son, Kaine? So he's kind of jealous. He's jealous of Spider-Man. He doesn't understand why his father will put so much sort of stock into Spider-Man. And he's questioning his father at the same time as being blindly obedient. He's got this weird sort of duality. It's banging through his head and it's messing him up because he hates him, but he loves him. You know, he wants to be free, but he wants to help his father. And it's quite sad. He says, no, I can't ask questions. I live to serve Father, to do his will, and yet something about this spider confuses me and touches me. And as he touches him, he gets this huge amount of sort of information thrown into his brain, much like it happened in the other issue, actually. So, excuse me. He says, let's reread that. Something about this spider confuses me and touches me in a way I can neither fathom nor explain, as if he holds the key to my own origins. The gaps in my memory. What is it, Spider? Why do you? And then we get this weird, like I say, sort of memories from Spidey going into Kaine. A tsunami of thought, of feeling, just as I felt when I abducted him from the Parker house. But it's stronger now, as if all that he's done, all that he knows, all that he is within me. And one feeling, one soul rises above the rest. The woman! Yes, Mary Jane. Mary Jane. Her presence seeps into my very cells. How is this happening? Why is it happening? What are you, Spider? And more importantly, what am I? Now, he's obviously going to go after Mary Jane now. He's been given the love bug, basically. Okay, and I think he feels this might give some answers to his questions. Now, we jump back to Aunt May and Mary Jane. And Aunt May has revealed she knows Peter's Spider-Man. And they have this beautiful moment, actually. It's really well written where they says, even though I know, I'm not telling him, I don't want to add that pressure onto him because the things that he does are great and he's pressured enough. He sacrifices enough. I don't want to be another thing that he's worried about. And they have this little heart-to-heart. And it's really, really nice, actually. And I tell you what, if we had that in the main Amazing Spider-Man book, yes, I'm going there, I'm sorry. If we had this in the main Amazing Spider-Man book, it would be so much better because this is why we read Spider-Man, okay? We get the heroics and the action of Peter Parker, and we get the support characters that make it all the more important. It's really nicely well written. They've really got those characters. Now, don't forget, Peter Parker is motivated by Mary Jane, and that love and that thing just boils up in his brain, and he starts fighting like Spider-Man does, and he starts trying to break through. He tries to break through the cocoon, and eventually he punches out of it, okay, because he's got to save the day, of course, save Mary Jane, put Morlun down, and find out what the hell's going on with Kaine. Anyway, he says, I can't just give up. I can't let Morlun win. After all, Mary Jane and I went through to be together again. All we've suffered, all we've sacrificed, I can't let him win. But it's more. It's about more than just us. Who knows what damage Morlun would do to the world in the name of some twisted vision of salvation? Who knows how many more lives will be offered up in the name of paradise? So he decides he's got to get out of there. And as he escapes or tries to escape, there's a door and he opens it and there's this giant weird beast. And it kind of looks like Morlun's been sort of putting together different types of totems to try and sort of create a totem that will sustain him. Now, this is a silly moment, which I'm going to point out. This giant beast has one single chain to his neck, keeping him in check. However, as soon as Spidey turns up, he just whips it off. It's like, why has he not tried to escape before? Why has it taken Spider-Man to walk the room to rip it off? And why would he only have a tiny chain? He's a beast. That tiny chain isn't going to hold anybody. It wouldn't hold one of my cats. It just seemed a little bit silly. Anyway, of course, we have a fight because we can't, finish the book without a punch-up, without Spidey slinging around. Now we jump back to Mary Jane. And Kaine has turned up and he said, "Why do I love you?" When we find out probably in the next issue. But back to Spidey. So he's facing this villain, and it's not looking good. Spidey's going down. He's too weak from that paralytic cocoon he was in the fight before that. But a spear comes from the air in this little silhouette, straight through the chest, I guess, of this weird, monstrous totem, felling the beast. And guess what? Kraven's here, and he has come for his final hunt. And that final hunt, it's got to be Spider-Man. Whoa! So the spear drops, and it looks like Spidey's done for. But of course, we'll see him in the next issue. He's going to get out of this. And that's it. So you know what? It was really, really interesting. We had Kraven bookend the whole story. Right at the beginning, right at the end. We had an interesting, very interesting origin for Morlun with some great characterization. We had Spidey fighting the odds for the woman that he loves. And we've got a crazed, maniacal kind of villain in the mix. All wrapped up with a little bit of Kaine. I really enjoyed this. In fact, I've enjoyed it the second time I read it. The first time I thought it was okay. But again, I keep reading books a few more times now because I'm kind of not sure that I'm just making split decisions. I don't want to say something's bad when it's not because I read it too fast. But I read it a couple of times now, and I've enjoyed it more each time. It's really, really coming to its own now. And I'm definitely looking forward to the next issue. I never thought I'd say that. I guess you guys never thought I'd say that. But this, for me, it's pretty much the best Spidey book this week. And don't forget, we had 4 of them. So yes, Spider-Man 94 is a big hit for me. I've really enjoyed it. It's got me locked in, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. There we go. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours. Hopefully you've liked the video. Hopefully you subscribed. See you later, Spider fans.